The morning light spilled across the weathered fence posts of Blue River Ranch, painting long shadows on the dusty path. Ethan Winters adjusted his worn Stetson hat, the lines around his eyes deepening as he squinted at the horizon. 10 years of solitude had etched themselves into his face, as permanent as the mountains that framed his land. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The rising sun cast an amber glow over fields that had once flourished, but now struggled through the second year of drought. Ethan's calloused hands gripped the porch railing, his knuckles white with tension. At 42, he had settled into the quiet rhythm of a life lived alone, convinced that some men were simply meant for solitude. The neighboring ranchers, with their Sunday dinners and children's laughter, were a world apart from his empty house and silent meals. That's when he heard it. The unmistakable sound of tires struggling on the gravel road that wound up to his property. The old truck came into view, moving too fast for the rutted drive, kicking up clouds of dust that spiraled in the morning light. Ethan straightened, frowning at this unexpected intrusion into his carefully ordered world. The truck lurched to a stop near his porch steps. The driver's door swung open, and a woman stepped out, her movements quick and flustered. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe early 30s, with honey blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Despite the travel-worn look of her simple blue dress, there was something striking about her, a determined set to her jaw that caught his attention immediately. "Are you Ethan Winters?" she called, her voice steady despite the anxiety that tightened her features. "I am," he replied, not moving from his position on the porch. "And you are?" "Olivia." She hesitated, then added, "Olivia Bennett. I believe you knew my brother, Daniel." The name hit Ethan like a physical blow. Daniel Bennett. His closest friend from their days in the smoke jumpers, fighting wildfires across the Mountain West. The man who had saved his life in the Carson Ridge blaze 5 years ago, at the cost of his own. "Yes, ma'am." "I knew Daniel." Ethan removed his hat, a gesture of respect that came automatically. Olivia's shoulders tensed as she moved to the passenger door. When she opened it, Ethan saw a small boy, no more than 6 years old, curled up on the seat, his face tear-stained and wary. Beside him sat what appeared to be a homemade cake, now completely collapsed into a sad heap of chocolate and frosting. "This is Noah," Olivia said softly, Daniel's son. The boy didn't look up, just clutched a worn backpack to his chest like a shield. Ethan felt his world shift beneath his feet. Daniel had mentioned a son and a sister who raised him after his wife died, but those had been campfire conversations. Memories shared between drops into raging fires, not flesh-and-blood reality standing in his driveway. "Noah," Olivia's voice gentled as she spoke to the boy. "This is Mr. Winters, the man your dad worked with." The child's eyes, red-rimmed from crying, finally lifted to meet Ethan's. The resemblance to Daniel was startling. The same determined chin, the same questioning gaze. Something twisted in Ethan's chest, a feeling he couldn't immediately identify. "We brought you a birthday cake," Noah said suddenly, his small voice cracking. "But it got ruined when Mom Livy had to swerve for a deer." Ethan blinked, momentarily confused. "It's not my birthday." "It's mine," Noah said. "I'm 6 today. Mom Livy said we could share it with you." Olivia's cheeks flushed. "We've been driving all night. I might have told him a few stories to keep his spirits up." Ethan noticed then the dark circles under her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands as she reached back to smooth Noah's hair. "Mr. Winters," Olivia said, straightening her shoulders, "I know this is unexpected, but we've come a long way, and I need to speak with you. About Daniel, about his last wishes." The weight of those words hung in the air between them. Ethan felt a rush of memories. Daniel pulling him from the flames, the last words gasped through smoke-damaged lungs, promises made that he'd never expected to be called upon to keep. "It's hot out here," he said finally, gesturing toward the house. "You both should come inside." Relief washed over Olivia's face. "Thank you." As they approached the porch, thunder rumbled in the distance. Dark clouds were gathering over the mountains, unusual for this time of year. "Storm's coming," Ethan observed, holding the door open for them. Story of our life lately, Olivia murmured as she passed him, guiding Noah with a gentle hand on his shoulder. Inside, the ranch house was clean but Spartan. No family photos adorned the walls. No evidence of a life shared with others. Just the necessities of a man living alone, functional and unadorned. Noah clutched his backpack tighter, his eyes wide as he took in the unfamiliar surroundings. When a fresh tear slid down his cheek, Olivia knelt beside him. "It's okay to be sad about the cake," she whispered. "We can make another one." The boy shook his head. "It's not just the cake. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story." "I know, buddy. I know." Ethan stood awkwardly, feeling like an intruder in his own home. "There's lemonade in the fridge, and I think I have some cookies somewhere." Noah's head snapped up, interest momentarily overriding his distress. "What kind?" "Chocolate chip," Ethan replied. "Store-bought, not homemade." "Those are my favorite," Noah said seriously. "Mine too," Ethan found himself saying, though he couldn't remember the last time he'd given any thought to cookie preferences. While Olivia helped Noah get settled at the kitchen table with cookies and lemonade, Ethan caught glimpses of their interaction, the gentle way she wiped a smudge from the boy's cheek, the practiced patience in her voice as she encouraged him to eat something. She was clearly more than just an aunt to the child. When Noah seemed sufficiently distracted by his snack, Olivia gestured toward the porch. "Could we talk privately for a moment?" Outside, the approaching storm had darkened the sky and the wind had picked up, bringing with it the smell of rain and ozone. "I'm sorry to show up unannounced," Olivia began, wrapping her arms around herself as if suddenly cold. "But things happened quickly, and I didn't have your number." "Daniel never was good about sharing contact information," Ethan said. A ghost of a smile touched his lips despite the heaviness in his chest. "No, he wasn't." Olivia's eyes softened at the mention of her brother. "Mr. Winters." "Ethan," he corrected. "Just Ethan is fine. Ethan." She nodded. "I don't know how much Daniel told you about his situation, about Noah. He mentioned his wife died when the boy was barely walking. Said you stepped in to help raise him." "Yes." Olivia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I was 26 when Kelly died. I moved in with them, put my teaching career on hold. It was supposed to be temporary, but..." She trailed off, looking toward the kitchen where Noah sat. "He became my world." Ethan waited, sensing there was more to the story, more to explain this unexpected visit. "Daniel left a letter," she continued after a moment, "to be opened if anything happened to him. It contained two things, your address and a request." Her voice caught. "He asked that I bring Noah to you." The words hung between them, carried away by the gusting wind as the first fat raindrops began to fall. "To me?" Ethan repeated, disbelief coloring his tone. "Why would he?" "Because you were his brother in every way that mattered," Olivia cut in. "His words, not mine. He said you were the most honorable man he'd ever known, that if anything happened to him, you would know what to do." Ethan felt the weight of those words, of Daniel's faith in him. Faith he wasn't sure he deserved. "Miss Bennett." "Olivia, please. Olivia." He ran a hand through his hair. "I live alone for a reason. I'm not. I don't know the first thing about kids." "Neither did I, when Kelly died," she countered. "I learned. We all do." "It's different. You're family. And Daniel considered you family." Her eyes held his, unwavering. "Look, I'm not asking you to take Noah. That's not why we're here." Relief washed through him, followed immediately by confusion. "Then why are you here?" The rain was falling steadily now, drumming on the porch roof above them. 2 months ago, the company Daniel worked for between fire seasons went bankrupt. The pension died with it. Her voice remained steady, though Ethan could see the cost of that control and the tension around her eyes. "I've been piecing together jobs to keep us afloat, but last week the bank foreclosed on Daniel's house." "Our house." Understanding began to dawn on Ethan. "You need money." Anger flashed in her eyes. "No, I don't want your money." The fierceness in her tone took him aback. "I want a job." "Daniel said you run cattle and horses, that you're always shorthanded. He said you mentioned once needing someone to manage the books, handle the business side of things." Ethan stared at her, taken aback by the request. "You want to work for me? I have a degree in business education. I taught high school accounting before Noah. I can keep your books, organize your paperwork, maybe help modernize whatever system you're using." The words tumbled out quickly, as if she'd rehearsed them. "All I ask in return is housing for Noah and me, just until I can save enough to get us back on our feet." Before Ethan could respond, a crash of thunder shook the house, followed by the sound of breaking glass from inside. Olivia was through the door in an instant, Ethan close behind. They found Noah standing frozen in the kitchen, a shattered glass at his feet, milk spreading across the tile floor. "I'm sorry," the boy whispered, his lower lip trembling. "I didn't mean to." "It's okay, buddy. It was an accident." Olivia's voice was calm as she carefully guided him away from the broken glass. "I'll clean it up," Ethan said, already reaching for a towel. As he knelt to wipe up the milk, he caught sight of Noah's face. The boy was fighting back tears, his small body rigid with the effort of not crying. "Hey," Ethan said gently. "No harm done. Glasses break all the time." Noah nodded, not meeting his eyes. "You know," Ethan continued, "when I was about your age, I broke my grandma's favorite vase. I was so scared she'd be mad that I tried to hide all the pieces under the couch." A flicker of interest crossed Noah's face. "Did you get in trouble?" "Well, my grandma found them, of course, but instead of being angry, she sat down with me, and we glued that vase back together. It wasn't pretty when we were done, but she kept it anyway. Said it had character now." The ghost of a smile touched Noah's lips. "Sometimes," Ethan found himself saying, "the broken things are the most interesting ones." Olivia was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Surprise, perhaps, or reassessment. The storm outside intensified, rain lashing against the windows with sudden ferocity. Lightning flashed, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder that made Noah jump. "That one was close," Ethan observed, standing up with the milk-soaked towel. "Might have hit something." As if in answer, the lights flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging the house into gray dimness. "Power's out," Ethan said unnecessarily. "Generator should kick in soon." Noah edged closer to Olivia, who put an arm around his shoulders. "Is it safe here?" she asked. "House has weathered worse," Ethan assured her. "But you might want to stay the night. Roads around here flood quickly in heavy rain like this." He saw the hesitation in Olivia's eyes, the mental calculation of options. "We wouldn't want to impose," she said carefully. "It's not an imposition. It would be irresponsible to send you back out in this." Ethan gestured toward the window, where the rain was now coming down in sheets. "I have a spare room. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean." Another crash of thunder made the decision for them. Noah pressed his face against Olivia's side, his small shoulders shaking. "Thank you," Olivia said quietly. "We'll stay until the storm passes." The generator hummed to life, bringing back the lights and a semblance of normalcy. Ethan busied himself finding clean towels for his unexpected guests, showing them to the spare room that had stood empty since he'd bought the ranch. The room was plain but comfortable, with a queen-sized bed and a reading chair by the window. "There's only one bed," he said, suddenly aware of the inadequacy of his accommodations. "We'll manage," Olivia assured him. "Noah and I have shared smaller spaces." While Olivia helped Noah change into dry clothes, Ethan retreated to the kitchen, where the remnants of the collapsed birthday cake still sat in its container on the counter. On impulse, he opened it, examining the chocolate mess inside. Despite its appearance, it still smelled good, rich chocolate and vanilla frosting. By the time Olivia and Noah returned, Ethan had transferred the cake to a bowl and was mixing in vanilla ice cream from his freezer. "What are you doing?" Noah asked, curiosity momentarily overriding his shyness. "Making cake sundaes," Ethan replied. "My mom used to say that when a cake falls apart, you just need to find a new way to enjoy it." He scooped the mixture into 3 bowls, topped each with a sprinkle of chopped nuts, and slid one toward Noah. "Happy birthday!" The boy's eyes widened. "It looks different." "But it's still your cake," Ethan said. "Just in a new form." Noah tentatively took a spoonful, then another. A small, genuine smile spread across his face. "It's good." For the first time since their arrival, the tension in Olivia's shoulders eased slightly. "Thank you," she mouthed silently over Noah's head. They ate their improvised dessert as the storm raged outside, the conversation gradually becoming less strained. Noah, bolstered by sugar and the adventure of being in a strange place during a thunderstorm, began to open up, asking Ethan questions about the ranch and the animals. "Do you have horses?" he wanted to know. 5 of them, Ethan confirmed, plus 24 cattle and some chickens. "I've never seen a real cow up close," Noah admitted. "Just in books." "Well, when the rain stops, I could show you around," Ethan found himself offering. "If that's all right with your aunt." "Mom Livy," Noah corrected seriously. "She's my Mom Livy, not just my aunt." Ethan glanced at Olivia, who explained, "After Kelly died, Noah was too young to understand the difference between an aunt and a mother. He started calling me Mom Livy, and it stuck." "She makes the best pancakes," Noah added, with authority. "And she knows all the dinosaur names." "Impressive credentials," Ethan said, his lips quirking into a half-smile. As the evening wore on, Noah's eyelids grew heavy. The excitement of the day, combined with their long journey and the comforting sound of rain on the roof, was finally catching up to him. "I think it's bedtime for you, buddy," Olivia said gently. Noah didn't protest, but as he stood to follow her to the bedroom, he turned to Ethan. "Will you tell me a story about my dad? Mom Livy says you fought fires with him." The request caught Ethan off guard. He looked to Olivia, uncertain. "It's okay," she assured him. "He likes hearing stories about Daniel. It helps him remember." "All right," Ethan agreed softly. "I'll come tell you a story in a few minutes." After Noah had brushed his teeth and changed into pajamas, Ethan sat awkwardly on the edge of the bed. The boy looked up at him expectantly, small and vulnerable in the oversized t-shirt he wore to sleep. "Your dad," Ethan began, clearing his throat, "was the bravest man I ever knew, not because he wasn't scared. Everyone's scared when they're jumping into a fire, but because he did what needed doing anyway." He told Noah about the time Daniel had saved a fawn trapped by a forest fire, carrying it through smoke and flames to safety, then going back to help contain the blaze. He kept the story simple, appropriate for a 6-year-old, focusing on Daniel's courage and kindness, rather than the dangers they had faced. By the time he finished, Noah's eyes were drooping, though he fought to keep them open. "Was my dad your best friend?" he asked sleepily. "Yes," Ethan admitted, the truth of it settling deep in his chest. "He was my best friend." "Then why didn't you come visit us?" The innocent question struck like a physical blow. Ethan had no good answer, no justification for the way he'd withdrawn after Daniel's death, cutting all ties to avoid the pain of his loss. "Sometimes," he said carefully, "grown-ups make mistakes. We do the wrong thing even when we know better." He tucked the blanket around Noah's small form. "I should have come to see you and your Mom Livy. I'm sorry that I didn't." Noah seemed to accept this, his eyelids finally surrendering to sleep. Ethan watched him for a moment, this small piece of his friend that somehow still existed in the world, before quietly leaving the room. He found Olivia standing by the living room window, watching the storm. The rain had slowed somewhat, but occasional lightning still illuminated the darkness outside. "He's asleep," Ethan told her. "Thank you for the story," she said, not turning from the window. Most people are uncomfortable when he asks about Daniel. They try to change the subject, afraid it will upset him more. "Kids deserve the truth," Ethan said, "a version they can handle anyway." They stood in silence for a moment, the only sound the steady drumming of rain on the roof. "About your proposal," Ethan finally said, I do need help with the books. This place has been running on handwritten ledgers and shoeboxes full of receipts since I bought it. Hope flickered across Olivia's face, quickly tempered by caution. But taking you on means taking on Noah, too. I'm not sure this is the right environment for a child. Noah adapts quickly, she countered. And I can keep him occupied while I work. It's not just that. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, struggling to articulate his concerns. The nearest school is 30 minutes away. The closest neighbor with kids is the Dawson place, 5 miles down the road. It's isolated here. We've been isolated before. A hint of steel entered Olivia's voice. After Daniel died, I took 3 jobs just to keep the house. Noah spent his days with whichever neighbor could watch him. He hardly saw me for months. Her fingers twisted together. At least here we'd be together. Ethan considered her words, weighing them against his own reservations. He thought of the boy sleeping in the next room, of the promises made to Daniel, of the loneliness that had become so familiar he barely noticed it anymore. I can offer you 3 months, he said finally, a trial period. You organize my accounts, help modernize the business side of things. In exchange, you get the use of the guest house out back. It needs some fixing up, but it's solid, plus a modest salary. Relief washed over Olivia's face, quickly followed by determination. I can work with that. After 3 months, we reassess, Ethan continued. If it's not working out for any reason, if Noah's unhappy, if the isolation is too much, if the work isn't what you expected, no hard feelings. I'll help you find something else. And if it does work out, then we'll talk about something more permanent. Olivia extended her hand. Deal! As their hands clasped, lightning flashed outside, illuminating her face. For the first time, Ethan noticed the dusting of freckles across her nose, the way her eyes crinkled slightly at the corners when she smiled. I think we should drink to this, he said, releasing her hand. I have some apple cider in the fridge. Non-alcoholic, he added quickly. Perfect, she agreed. They sat at the kitchen table, cider in hand, as Ethan explained more about the ranch. The daily routines, the seasonal work, the challenges of running a small operation in an industry increasingly dominated by corporate interests. It's been in my family for 3 generations, he told her. My grandfather built it from nothing, my father expanded it, and I've been trying not to let it slip away. Is that why you left smoke jumping? Olivia asked. To take over the ranch? Ethan's expression clouded. Partly. My father was sick. Someone needed to step in. He took a sip of his cider, avoiding her eyes. And after what happened with Daniel, I couldn't go back to that life. Understanding passed between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of the guilt he carried. You know, Olivia said softly, Daniel never blamed you, not once. In his letter, he called you his brother. Said you tried to save him. Ethan's hand tightened around his glass. I should have tried harder. He made his own choice, Ethan. You have to believe that. Before he could respond, they heard a small sound from the doorway. Noah stood there in his oversized t-shirt, hair mussed from sleep, tears streaming down his face. Bad dream? Olivia asked gently, already moving toward him. Noah nodded, burying his face against her when she knelt beside him. Do you want to talk about it? She asked, smoothing his hair. The boy shook his head, then changed his mind. The fire came, he whispered, and Dad didn't come home. Ethan felt the words like a physical blow. He knew those dreams, had lived with them for 5 years. Your dad was a hero, Olivia murmured, holding Noah close. And he loved you more than anything in this world. But heroes are supposed to come home, Noah said, his voice small and broken. Ethan moved without thinking, kneeling beside them. Sometimes they can't, he said gently, but that doesn't mean they didn't try with everything they had. Noah looked up at him, tears still sliding down his cheeks. Did my dad try? Harder than anyone I've ever known, Ethan assured him, his own voice rough with emotion. Impulsively, Noah reached out, wrapping his small arms around Ethan's neck. The gesture caught him off guard, this unexpected embrace from his friend's son. After a moment of surprise, Ethan's arms came up to hold the boy carefully, as if he might break. Over Noah's shoulder, his eyes met Olivia's. In that moment, something shifted between them. An understanding. A shared purpose. Perhaps even the first tentative foundation of trust. Later, after Noah had fallen back asleep between them on the sofa, the storm finally began to subside. The rain gentled to a soft patter, and the thunder rumbled distantly, moving away across the mountains. "Will you tell me what happened?" Olivia asked quietly, her fingers still stroking Noah's hair. "With Daniel." The full story, not the version for his 6-year-old. Ethan was silent for so long she thought he might refuse. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and controlled, as if keeping tight rein on emotions too dangerous to release fully. "We were fighting the Carson Ridge fire," he began. "It turned on us. The wind shifted suddenly. We were cut off, me and Daniel and 2 others. There was only one path out, through a narrow gully." He stared into the darkness beyond the window, seeing not the rain-washed night, but flames and smoke from 5 years ago. Daniel insisted on bringing up the rear. Said he was the fastest, could catch up. I should have been the one to stay back. His jaw tightened. The fire moved like a living thing. It caught us in that gully. I went back for him when I realized he wasn't behind us anymore. Olivia's hand had stilled on Noah's head, her attention completely focused on Ethan's words. I found him trapped under a fallen tree. His leg was crushed. I tried to lift it, but... He shook his head. He knew. He looked at me and said, "Not both of us, brother." Then he pushed me away just before the flames reached us. The memory of it still had the power to steal his breath. The heat, the roar of the fire, the absolute certainty in Daniel's eyes. His last words to me were about Noah. "Look after my boy," he said. "Promise me." Ethan's voice cracked. I promised, but when it was over, when they recovered his body, I couldn't face it. Couldn't face you or Noah. What right did I have to be in your lives when Daniel wasn't? "So you came here instead," Olivia said softly. "To be alone with your guilt. To honor his memory. The only way I knew how." Ethan corrected. "By taking care of the land, living the kind of life he always talked about wanting." Olivia considered this, her expression thoughtful. "Did it help?" "No," he admitted, "but it was easier than facing what I'd lost. What you'd lost." She was quiet for a long moment. "I think," she finally said, "Daniel knew exactly what he was asking when he told you to look after Noah. He knew you'd need Noah as much as Noah would need you." "What do you mean?" "Grief changes us, isolates us if we let it." Her eyes dropped to the sleeping child between them. "Noah saved me after Daniel died. Gave me a reason to get up every morning, to keep going. Maybe Daniel hoped he could do the same for you." The thought had never occurred to Ethan that Daniel's final request might have been meant as much for him as for his son. As if sensing they were talking about him, Noah stirred in his sleep, mumbling something incoherent before settling again. His small hand rested on Ethan's arm, trusting even in sleep. "He laughs like his father," Ethan observed quietly. When he smiled earlier, over that cake mess, it was pure Daniel. Olivia's expression softened. "Yes, he has Daniel's laugh. His stubbornness, too." "Poor kid," Ethan said with the ghost of a smile. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the soft sound of Noah's breathing and the steadily diminishing rain against the windows. The storm had passed, leaving behind a washed, clean night and the promise of clear skies to come. "You should stay," Ethan said suddenly. The words surprised him as much as they seemed to surprise Olivia. "Not just for the job, not just for 3 months." Her eyes widened. "What are you saying?" Ethan looked down at Noah, then back at Olivia. "I'm saying this ranch is too big for one person. It always has been. I've just been too stubborn to admit it." "Ethan, Daniel was right about me needing family," he continued, the words coming faster now, as if a dam had broken. "And Noah needs space to run, animals to care for, fresh air, and room to grow. You both do." "We barely know each other," Olivia reminded him. though her voice held no rejection. "I knew Daniel," Ethan said simply. "And if he trusted you with his son, that's good enough for me." He glanced again at Noah. "Stay. Give this a real chance." For him. For Daniel. A long moment passed between them, filled with unspoken questions and possibilities. "And for you?" Olivia finally asked. "Would we be staying for you too?" The question hung in the air, honest and direct. Ethan met her gaze, allowing himself to truly see her. The strength in her eyes, the grace with which she had faced every hardship, the fierce protection she offered Noah. "Yes," he admitted, "for me too." As if to seal this unexpected pact, Noah laughed softly in his sleep, a sound so like his father's that it made both adults smile. Ethan found himself making another silent promise to his friend. "I'll do better this time, brother. I'll keep them safe." "Stay," Ethan said once more, his voice gentle but certain. If he still laughs like that, if there's still joy in him despite everything, then this place, this life, might be exactly what we all need. Olivia's hand found his across the back of the sofa, their fingers brushing lightly over the sleeping child between them. "We'll stay," she agreed softly. "For now. For him. For all of us," her eyes seemed to say. Outside, the clouds began to part, revealing a scatter of stars across the vast Montana sky. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean, ready for new beginnings. The first days of their new arrangement fell into an uneasy rhythm. The old guest house behind the main ranch house had stood empty for years, used mostly for storage. It took Ethan and Olivia 3 full days to clear it out, repair the leaky roof, and make it habitable. Noah trailed after them, carrying small tools and asking endless questions about ranch life. "Why do you have so many different kinds of hammers?" He wanted to know, examining Ethan's toolbox with solemn curiosity. "Different jobs need different tools," Ethan explained, showing Noah how to hold a hammer correctly. "Just like you need different crayons for different parts of a drawing." The boy nodded, accepting this wisdom with the seriousness of apprentice learning from a master. "Can I help fix something?" Ethan glanced at Olivia, who gave a slight nod of encouragement. "How about you help me hang these curtains?" he suggested, pointing to the flowered fabric Olivia had found in town. "A man needs a good assistant for a job like that." Noah's chest puffed with pride. "I can be your assistant." By the end of the week, the guest house was transformed. The main room served as both living area and kitchen, with a small bedroom for Olivia and a converted alcove for Noah. It wasn't spacious, but with fresh paint, clean curtains, and furniture Ethan had brought down from the attic, it felt like a proper home. "It's perfect," Olivia said, surveying their work. "Thank you, Ethan." "Just holding up my end of the deal," he replied, though they both knew he'd gone well beyond what their agreement required. On Monday morning, Olivia officially began her work, setting up at the small desk in the corner of Ethan's office. The state of his financial records was even worse than she'd anticipated. Receipts stuffed haphazardly into shoeboxes, ledgers with entries crossed out and rewritten, tax forms from 3 years prior still unfiled. "How have you stayed in business?" she asked, not bothering to hide her dismay. Ethan shrugged, looking somewhat sheepish. "The cattle sell themselves, mostly, and I get by." "Getting by isn't the same as thriving," Olivia pointed out. She held up a stack of invoices. "You've been undercharging for your beef, and overpaying for feed. And I don't even want to talk about your tax situation." "That bad?" "Worse." She shook her head. "We've got our work cut out for us." While Olivia tackled the paperwork, Noah explored his new surroundings with the boundless energy of a 6-year-old. Ethan found himself adjusting his daily routine to include the boy, showing him the proper way to collect eggs from the henhouse, letting him help fill water troughs for the horses, answering his steady stream of questions about ranch life. "Why do you have to check the fences every day?" Noah asked, riding alongside Ethan on an old, gentle mare named Daisy. It was their 3rd week at Blue River Ranch, and the boy had taken to horseback riding with surprising ease. "Because cattle are escape artists," Ethan explained. "They're always looking for ways to get to greener grass. Like how I always want to go to the toy store, even when Mom Livy says we have plenty of toys at home. Ethan laughed, a sound that was becoming less rusty with each passing day. Exactly like that. The afternoons often found them working together on small projects, building a birdhouse for the garden, fixing the chicken coop door, learning to tie proper knots. Noah soaked up these lessons eagerly, his small hands becoming more confident with each new skill. One evening, after Noah had gone to bed, Olivia found Ethan on the porch of the main house, staring up at the stars. "He's finally asleep," she said, settling into the chair beside him. "He was so excited about riding Daisy today that I thought he'd never calm down." "He's a natural on horseback," Ethan observed. "Just like his father." "Daniel rode?" "Every chance he got. Used to say that the only place he felt truly at peace was on the back of a horse or the front line of a fire." Olivia smiled at this new piece of her brother's history. "Noah's like him in so many ways. Sometimes it catches me off guard." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the night air cool around them. "I've been meaning to talk to you about the accounts," Olivia said finally. "I've set up a proper bookkeeping system and created a file for your taxes, but there's something else we need to discuss." The seriousness in her tone made Ethan turn to look at her. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong exactly. It's just, you're barely breaking even, Ethan. The ranch is financially sound in terms of assets, but your cash flow is problematic." He sighed, not entirely surprised by this assessment. "My father was the businessman. I just know cattle and horses." "You know more than you give yourself credit for," Olivia countered. "But you need to diversify. The market for small beef operations is getting tighter every year." "Diversify how?" "I've been doing some research." Excitement crept into her voice. "There's growing demand for specialty tourism experiences, working ranch vacations, horseback riding adventures, that sort of thing. You have the land, the expertise, and frankly, some of the most beautiful views I've ever seen." Ethan frowned, considering this. "You want me to turn Blue River into a dude ranch?" "Not exactly. More like offering authentic experiences to people who want to learn about this way of life." Olivia leaned forward, warming to her subject. "City folks pay good money to disconnect from technology and reconnect with nature, to learn practical skills, to ride real horses across open country. It would mean strangers on the property," Ethan said, discomfort evident in his voice. "Changes to how we operate." "Yes," Olivia acknowledged. "But it could also mean the difference between scraping by and building something sustainable. Something you could pass on someday." The unspoken implication hung between them that there might be someone to pass the ranch to someday. "I'll think about it," Ethan promised, though his expression remained dubious. The next morning brought an unexpected challenge. Noah woke with a fever, his small body burning hot to the touch, his normally bright eyes glazed and listless. "It's probably just a cold," Olivia said, trying to mask her worry as she pressed a cool cloth to the boy's forehead. "But his asthma makes any illness more complicated." "Asthma?" Ethan echoed, his brow furrowing. "I didn't know he had asthma. It's usually mild. But when he gets sick." She trailed off, her focus entirely on the child whose breathing had become noticeably labored. Ethan's decision was immediate. "I'm calling Dr. Mitchell. She can be here in 20 minutes." "We can't afford," Olivia began automatically, then stopped herself. "Old habits," she said with a weak smile. "Yes, please call the doctor." Dr. Mitchell arrived promptly, her weathered face creased with concern as she examined Noah. "Bronchitis," she diagnosed. "Combined with his asthma, it's causing the respiratory distress. We need to start him on antibiotics and increase his inhaler usage." She administered the first treatments there, showing Olivia how to use the nebulizer she'd brought. Noah submitted to the mask with uncharacteristic quietness, his eyes finding Ethan's across the room as if seeking reassurance. "You're going to be just fine, partner," Ethan told him, his voice steady despite the knot of worry in his chest. "Dr. Mitchell is the best there is. Fixed me up plenty of times." You get sick too? Noah asked, his voice muffled by the mask. Everyone does sometimes, Ethan replied. Even tough cowboys. This elicited a small smile from the boy, the first since he'd fallen ill. After leaving detailed instructions and medication, Dr. Mitchell pulled Ethan aside. Keep a close eye on him. If his breathing gets worse, call me immediately. Day or night. I will, Ethan promised. Thank you for coming so quickly. The doctor studied him with knowing eyes. It's good to see you taking an interest in someone besides your cattle, Ethan Winters. That boy and his mother are good for you. She's not his mother, Ethan corrected automatically. She's his aunt. Dr. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. Could have fooled me. And him too, I'd wager. With that parting observation, she gathered her things and left. The day passed in a blur of medication schedules, temperature checks, and quiet worry. Olivia rarely left Noah's side, reading to him when he was awake, watching over him when he slept. Ethan handled the ranch chores alone, returning frequently to check on them both. As evening fell, he found Olivia in the kitchen of the guest house, making tea with shaking hands. You need rest, he told her gently. You've been up since dawn. I'm fine, she insisted, though the dark circles under her eyes told a different story. Go lie down. I'll sit with him for a while. She hesitated, then nodded, too exhausted to argue. His medicine is due in an hour, the nebulizer treatment. I remember the instructions, Ethan assured her. Go. Sleep. I've got this. Alone with the sleeping child, Ethan settled into the chair beside the bed. Noah's breathing was still raspy, but less labored than earlier. His cheeks remained flushed with fever, his hair damp against his forehead. Ethan found himself studying the boy's face, noting again the resemblance to Daniel, the determined set of the jaw even in sleep, the fan of dark lashes against feverish cheeks. But there were differences too, features that must have come from his mother. The shape of his nose, perhaps. The slight dimple in his right cheek. Without thinking, Ethan reached out to brush a strand of hair from Noah's forehead. The boy stirred at the touch, his eyes fluttering open. Ethan, he murmured, voice thick with sleep and illness. I'm here, buddy. Where's Mom Livy? Resting. She was getting tired. Noah nodded, accepting this. His small hand found Ethan's, fingers curling trustingly around his much larger ones. Will you stay? I'm not going anywhere, Ethan promised. Good. The boy's eyes were already drifting closed again. You're like the dad in my book, the one who keeps the monsters away. Ethan's throat tightened unexpectedly. There aren't any monsters here. I know, Noah whispered, already half asleep. That's 'cause you're here. Long after the boy had fallen back asleep, Ethan remained, Noah's small hand still clasped in his, thinking about monsters. Real and imagined, and what it meant to keep them at bay. The night deepened around them. Ethan administered the medication at the appointed time, helping Noah through the nebulizer treatment with awkward but gentle hands. Afterward, the boy drifted back to sleep, his breathing slightly easier. Sometime after midnight, Olivia appeared in the doorway, her hair tousled from sleep, concern evident in her eyes. How is he? She whispered. Better, I think, Ethan replied softly. His breathing's not as labored. Fever's down a little. Relief softened her features. You should have woken me for his treatment. You needed the rest. She moved to the bedside, placing a cool hand on Noah's forehead. Thank you, Ethan, for all of this. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do, she insisted quietly. Most men wouldn't have handled this so well. The illness, the disruption to their routine, the responsibility of it all. Most men haven't made promises to Daniel Bennett, Ethan said, though they both knew his actions went beyond any promise. Olivia's eyes found his in the dim light. It's more than that, though, isn't it? Before he could answer, Noah stirred, mumbling something unintelligible before settling again. You should go back to bed, Ethan told her. I'll stay a while longer. She nodded, too tired to argue. But at the doorway, she paused. "Ethan?" "Yes?" "I'm glad we came here. Even with everything, I'm glad." The simple admission lingered in the air long after she'd gone, a truth Ethan found himself echoing silently. "I'm glad to." The worst of Noah's illness passed over the next 2 days. By the weekend, though still weak, he was well enough to sit on the porch swing of the guest house. Wrapped in blankets despite the early summer warmth, watching the ranch activities with wistful eyes. "When can I ride Daisy again?" he asked Olivia, who was sorting laundry nearby. "When Dr. Mitchell says your lungs are clear," she replied firmly. "Not a day sooner." Noah's face fell. "But Ethan's moving the cattle today. He said I could help next time." "There will be other cattle drives," Olivia assured him. "For now, you need to focus on getting stronger." The sound of hoofbeats drew their attention. Ethan approached on horseback, leading a second horse. Not Daisy, but a sturdy pinto gelding named Scout. "Morning," he called, dismounting with ease. "How's our patient today?" "Bored," Noah replied mournfully. "And missing the horses." "Well, we can't have that," Ethan said. He glanced at Olivia. "I thought maybe a short ride might lift his spirits. Just around the yard, nice and slow. Scout's gentle as they come." Olivia hesitated, maternal protectiveness warring with the knowledge of how much it would mean to Noah. His lungs. "The fresh air might do him good," Ethan suggested. "And I'll keep him right in front of me. Won't let him out of my sight." The hope that bloomed on Noah's face was impossible to resist. "All right," Olivia conceded. "But just around the yard." And bundled up warm. The joy that lit Noah's features was worth any risk. Ethan helped him onto Scout, adjusting the stirrups to accommodate his short legs, then mounted his own horse. With exaggerated care, they walked the horses in a slow circle around the yard, Noah sitting tall in the saddle despite his recent illness. "Look, Mom Livy," he called, his voice stronger than it had been in days. "I'm riding Scout." "I see you, buddy," she called back, unable to suppress her smile at his obvious delight. They made several circuits of the yard, Ethan keeping a watchful eye on Noah for any signs of fatigue or respiratory distress. But the boy seemed energized by the activity, color returning to his cheeks, his eyes bright with excitement. "Can we go a little further?" he pleaded. "Just to the big tree and back?" Ethan looked to Olivia for permission. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "But no further than that." And slowly. As they rode toward the ancient oak that marked the boundary between the yard and the pasture, Noah glanced over at Ethan. "Thank you for letting me ride today." "You're welcome, buddy. And for staying with me when I was really sick. And for calling the doctor. And for telling Mom Livy to rest." Ethan felt something warm unfurl in his chest. "That's what friends do. Look out for each other." Noah considered this. "Are we friends?" "I'd like to think so." "Good." The boy nodded decisively. "I don't have many friends. Not since we had to move away from our old house." "Well, you've got one now," Ethan assured him. "Plus Daisy and Scout. And the chickens. Though they're not great conversationalists." Noah giggled, the sound pure and unburdened despite his recent illness. "Chickens can't talk." "Sure they can. They just have a limited vocabulary. Mostly bok-bok. And gimme more feed." This produced more laughter, the sound carrying across the yard to where Olivia stood watching. The sight of them together, Ethan patient and attentive, Noah animated and happy, filled her with a complicated mix of emotions. Gratitude, certainly. Relief that Noah was recovering. But also a growing warmth when she looked at Ethan, a feeling she wasn't quite ready to name. As the days passed and Noah regained his strength, life at Blue River Ranch settled into a new rhythm. Mornings found Olivia in the office, bringing order to the chaos of Ethan's financial records. Afternoons often saw her joining Ethan and Noah for various ranch activities. Riding, fixing fences, tending to the animals. To her surprise, Ethan began implementing some of her suggestions for diversifying the ranch's income. He reached out to an old friend who ran a tourism business in town, exploring the possibility of offering trail rides to visitors. He agreed to host a small group of photography enthusiasts who wanted to capture the mountain landscapes from his property. "It's a start," he told Olivia one evening as they sat on the main house porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson. Noah had gone to bed early, still building back his stamina after his illness. "It's more than I expected," she admitted. "I thought you'd be more resistant to change." Ethan was quiet for a moment, his gaze fixed on the distant peaks. "When Daniel died," he said finally, "I came back here thinking I could just freeze time, keep everything exactly as it had been when my father was alive. When Daniel and I were young and thought we were invincible." Olivia listened, understanding how rare it was for him to speak so openly about his feelings. "But that's not how life works," he continued. "Things change, whether we want them to or not. The ranch was dying because I was trying to keep it in the past." He turned to look at her directly. "You and Noah showing up, it forced me to see that." "Change isn't always bad," Olivia said softly. "No," he agreed. "Sometimes it's exactly what's needed." The moment stretched between them, comfortable and weighted with possibility. Then, from inside the house, the telephone rang, breaking the spell. Ethan excused himself to answer it. When he returned, his expression had changed, tension evident in the set of his shoulders. "Everything okay?" Olivia asked. "That was Mike Reynolds from the Double R," Ethan said, naming one of the neighboring ranchers. "There's a wildfire on the North Ridge. They're calling in everyone with experience to help contain it before it reaches the valley." Olivia felt her heart constrict. "A fire? But you're not a firefighter anymore." "Everyone with experience," Ethan repeated. "They're short-handed, and that fire gets into the dry valley brush. We could lose half the county's grazing land." She wanted to argue, to point out that he'd left that life behind for good reasons, but the determination in his eyes told her it would be futile. "When do you have to go?" she asked instead. "First light." "Should be gone 2 days. Maybe 3 if it's stubborn." Olivia nodded, trying to mask her concern. "We'll manage here. Noah and I can handle the basic chores." Ethan hesitated, then said, "Reynolds mentioned another thing. The fire. It started where it did 5 years ago. The Carson Ridge blaze." Understanding dawned on Olivia. The fire that had taken Daniel. The fire Ethan still blamed himself for, in some way. "Ethan," she began, not sure what to say. "It's just a fire," he said, his voice deliberately casual. "I've fought dozens of them." But they both knew it wasn't just any fire. It was a ghost, a memory, a test. "Be careful," Olivia said simply. "Noah and I will be waiting for you." The promise in those words seemed to steady him. "I'll be back before you know it." Morning came too quickly. Ethan was up before dawn, checking his gear with the methodical precision of someone who had done so countless times before. Olivia made coffee and packed food for him, moving quietly so as not to wake Noah. "You don't have to do this," she said as she handed him the provisions. "Yes, I do." His voice was gentle but firm. "Some fires you have to face head-on." They both knew he wasn't just talking about the blaze on the North Ridge. As Ethan loaded his truck, the guest house door opened and Noah appeared, still in his pajamas, his hair tousled from sleep. "You're leaving?" he asked, his voice small and uncertain. Ethan knelt down to the boy's level. "Just for a few days, buddy. There's a fire in the hills that needs putting out." Noah's eyes widened. "Like the fire that took my dad?" "No," Ethan said firmly. "This one's smaller, and we've caught it early. I'll be helping to make sure it doesn't get bigger." The boy's lower lip trembled. "But what if you don't come back? Like Dad?" The question hung in the air, raw and honest in the way only children can be. Ethan glanced at Olivia, who had moved to Noah's side, her hand protective on his shoulder. "I'm coming back," Ethan promised. "You have my word. And a cowboy never breaks his word, right?" Noah nodded, though his expression remained troubled. "How about this?" Ethan suggested. "I'll leave Scout here with you. You can look after him while I'm gone. Make sure he gets his morning oats and an apple for a treat. Think you can handle that responsibility?" The diversion worked. Noah's chin lifted slightly. "I can do that. I'll take really good care of him." "I know you will." Ethan reached out, gently ruffling the boy's hair. "And when I get back, maybe we can start teaching you to rope. I think you're ready for that next step." This brought a small smile to Noah's face. "Really?" "Really. But only if Scout gives me a good report on your caretaking skills." Noah giggled, momentarily forgetting his fears. "Horses can't talk?" "That's what you think," Ethan said with mock seriousness. "Scout and I have an understanding." The tension broken. Ethan stood and turned to Olivia. Their eyes met over Noah's head, volumes passing between them without a word being spoken. "Be safe," she said simply. "I will." He hesitated, then added, "Take care of our boy." "Our boy." The words settled between them, significant and right. With a final wave, Ethan climbed into his truck and drove away, dust rising behind the tires as he headed toward the mountains where smoke already stained the dawn sky. Olivia and Noah stood watching until the truck disappeared from view. Then, with forced cheerfulness, Olivia turned to Noah. "Well, partner, looks like we're in charge of the ranch for a few days. What should we tackle first?" "Feeding Scout," Noah decided promptly. "I promised Ethan." As they walked toward the barn together, Noah's small hand in hers, Olivia found herself offering a silent prayer for Ethan's safety, for his return to them, for the future that suddenly seemed both fragile and full of possibility. For now, they would care for the ranch and for each other, and wait for the man who had, against all odds, become the center of their unexpected family. The hours stretched like years in Ethan's absence. Olivia filled their days with ranch chores and improvised homeschooling lessons for Noah. But the worry remained constant, an undercurrent beneath their forced normalcy. Each evening, they climbed the small hill behind the guest house, where cell reception was strongest, hoping for news. On the third day, dark clouds gathered over the mountains, bringing the promise of rain to the parched landscape. Olivia stood at the kitchen window, watching the approaching storm with a mixture of hope and fear. Rain would help with the firefighting efforts, but it could also create dangerous conditions for the men on the ridge. "Is the rain good or bad?" Noah asked, coming to stand beside her. He had barely left her side during Ethan's absence, as if afraid she too might disappear if he looked away too long. "Both," Olivia answered honestly. "It helps put out fires, but it makes the ground slippery and harder to work on." Noah considered this, his young face solemn. "I think Ethan knows how to be careful in the rain. He showed me how to walk when the ground is slippery, remember? Small steps and watch where you put your feet." Olivia smiled despite her worry. "You're right. Ethan is very careful." "And brave," Noah added with certainty, "like Dad was." The simple comparison caught Olivia off guard. Noah rarely spoke of Daniel in the same breath as Ethan, as if keeping the two men separate in his mind. This casual linking of them felt significant, though she couldn't quite say why. "Yes," she agreed softly, "like your dad was." The first heavy raindrops began to fall, striking the window with rhythmic tapping. Within minutes, the gentle shower transformed into a downpour, water streaming down the glass in rivulets that distorted the world outside. "We should check on the animals," Olivia said, grateful for the distraction of necessary work. "Make sure everyone's dry and secure." They pulled on rain gear, oversized slickers that Ethan had lent them, boots that were too big for Noah's small feet but kept out the mud. Together they splashed across the yard to the barn, where the horses nickered in greeting. "Hello, Scout," Noah said, approaching Ethan's pinto gelding with the confidence of growing friendship. "Are you staying dry?" "Ethan would want you to stay dry." The horse nudged Noah's shoulder gently, making the boy giggle. The sound eased something in Olivia's chest, a reminder that even in worry, there was room for joy. They had just finished checking on the last of the animals when the barn door swung open, bringing with it a gust of rain-laden wind and a familiar silhouette. Ethan! Noah's cry was instantaneous, a perfect distillation of relief and joy. Ethan stood framed in the doorway, soaked to the skin, his face streaked with soot and exhaustion. But his eyes, when they found them, held a light that had nothing to do with the lightning flashing outside. "You're back early," Olivia said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We weren't expecting you until tomorrow at the earliest." "Rain changed the timeline," Ethan replied, closing the door against the storm. "Mother Nature did what we couldn't. Fires contained. Not out completely, but the worst dangers passed." Noah had already crossed the barn, flinging himself at Ethan with complete abandon. Without hesitation, Ethan scooped the boy up, holding him close despite his wet clothes and grimy appearance. "You kept your promise," Noah said, his small arms tight around Ethan's neck. "You came back. I told you I would, buddy." Ethan's voice was rough with emotion as he met Olivia's gaze over Noah's shoulder. The relief that washed through her was almost painful in its intensity. She had not allowed herself to acknowledge the depth of her fear until this moment, seeing him safe before her. "You look exhausted," she said, moving toward them, "and half drowned. We need to get you into dry clothes and in front of the fire." "I need a shower first," Ethan said with a tired smile. "I smell like smoke and sweat, and probably worse things." "You smell like a campfire," Noah confirmed, wrinkling his nose but not loosening his grip on Ethan's neck. "But I don't mind." They made a dash for the main house through the pouring rain, Noah still clinging to Ethan like a small monkey, Olivia bringing up the rear. Inside, the warmth and familiarity of the ranch house welcomed them, a shelter from both the literal storm outside and the emotional one they had weathered during Ethan's absence. "Go get cleaned up," Olivia urged Ethan. "I'll make some hot food. You must be starving." "Hungry enough to eat one of the chickens." "Raw," Ethan confirmed, finally setting Noah down. "Give me 15 minutes to wash away 3 days of fire and dirt." While Ethan showered, Olivia bustled in the kitchen, throwing together a hearty meal of leftover stew reheated with fresh biscuits. Noah set the table without being asked, carefully placing each fork and spoon just so, clearly determined to make everything perfect for Ethan's return. When Ethan emerged clean and changed into fresh clothes, the transformation was striking. The soot and grime were gone, revealing the strong lines of his face, now softened with fatigue, but also something else, a peace that hadn't been there before. "Sit," Olivia commanded, pulling out a chair. "Eat while it's hot." Ethan complied, too tired to argue. Noah climbed into the chair beside him, watching with solemn attention as Ethan ate, as if reassuring himself that the man was truly back and whole. "Did you fight the fire the whole time?" the boy asked. "Without sleeping?" "We took shifts," Ethan explained between bites. "Some men would rest while others worked. But nobody got much sleep, that's for sure." "Were you scared?" Noah's voice was small, hesitant. Ethan paused, considering the question with the seriousness it deserved. "Yes," he admitted finally. "Fire is always scary, even when you know what you're doing. Being afraid keeps you careful, keeps you alive." Noah nodded, absorbing this. Dad was scared too, wasn't he, when he was in the big fire? The question hung in the air, charged with meaning beyond the simple words. Olivia held her breath, unsure how Ethan would respond to this direct reference to Daniel's death. Ethan set down his fork, giving Noah his full attention. "Yes, buddy, your dad was scared. But he was also brave. The bravest man I ever knew. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you're scared and do what needs doing anyway. That's what you did," Noah said with absolute certainty. "You were scared, but you went to fight the fire because it needed fighting." Something shifted in Ethan's expression, a softening, an acceptance. "I guess I did." "I knew you would come back," Noah continued. "I told Mom Livy you promised, and you don't break promises." "No," Ethan agreed softly. "I don't." The conversation moved to lighter topics as they finished the meal. How Noah had cared for Scout, the progress Olivia had made organizing the office, the antics of a fox they'd spotted near the henhouse. Normal, everyday things that seemed miraculous in their ordinariness after 3 days of worry and waiting. After dinner, fatigue finally caught up with Noah. His eyes grew heavy, his responses slower, until he was nearly falling asleep at the table. "Time for bed, buddy," Olivia said gently. "You can talk more with Ethan tomorrow." "But he just got back," Noah protested weakly. even as he rubbed his eyes. "And I'll be here in the morning," Ethan promised. "We can check on Scout together first thing." This assurance seemed to satisfy Noah. He allowed Olivia to help him up from the table, but then turned back to Ethan. "Will you come say goodnight after Mom Livy tucks me in?" "Of course," Ethan agreed without hesitation. The request, so simple and so profound, brought unexpected tears to Olivia's eyes. She turned away quickly, using the excuse of gathering dishes to hide her emotion. This was what Noah had missed all these years. The security of a man's presence, the comfort of knowing someone would come when called, would be there in the morning. As she helped Noah prepare for bed in the guest house, her mind was filled with the image of Ethan in the doorway of the barn, rain-soaked and weary but alive, his eyes finding them immediately, as if they were what he had been searching for all along. "Mom Livy?" Noah's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "Are we going to stay here forever now?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't know, buddy. We agreed to stay for a while, to help Ethan with the ranch books, and to give us time to figure out our next steps." "But I like it here," Noah said, his expression earnest in the soft lamplight. "I like the horses, and the mountains, and helping Ethan fix things. And I think he likes having us here." He smiled more today, even though he was tired. Olivia smoothed the blanket over him, buying time to find the right words. "I'm glad you're happy here. And yes, I think Ethan does like having us around, but permanent decisions take time. But what if someone takes this home away too, like they took our other one?" The fear in his voice broke her heart. After so much loss and upheaval, Noah craved stability above all else, a place where no one could make them leave, where promises were kept, where goodnight rituals and morning greetings could be counted on. "No one is going to take this home away," she assured him. "Ethan owns this ranch outright, and we're welcome here for as long as we need to stay." This seemed to satisfy Noah. His eyes were already closing as Ethan appeared in the doorway, keeping his promise to say goodnight. "All tucked in?" Ethan asked softly. Noah nodded drowsily. "Tell me about the horses again," he murmured, already half asleep. "The ones we're gonna train." Ethan settled into the chair beside the bed, his voice dropping to a gentle rumble as he described the new foals expected in the spring, the training they would need, the role Noah could play in their upbringing. It was a story he'd told before, but Noah never tired of hearing it. A story of future plans, of permanence, of belonging. Within minutes, Noah was asleep, his breathing deep and even, his small face peaceful in repose. Ethan remained for a moment longer, watching him with an expression that made Olivia's heart constrict. "He was so worried," she said quietly as they left the room. "We both were." "I'm sorry about that," Ethan replied, his voice equally low. "I should have found a way to call, to let you know I was okay." "No reception on the ridge," Olivia acknowledged. "We understood that." It didn't make the waiting any easier, but we understood. They moved to the small living area of the guest house, the silence between them comfortable yet charged with unspoken thoughts. "How was it?" Olivia finally asked. "Being back out there, fighting fire again after what happened with Daniel." Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his gaze focused on something distant. "Harder than I expected," he admitted finally. "And easier, too, in some ways. The work itself comes back to you, the techniques, the instincts. But being on that ridge, so close to where we lost him." He shook his head. "I kept seeing him everywhere, hearing his voice in the wind." Olivia's hand found his, a gesture of comfort and understanding. "But you stayed. You finished the job." "I had promises to keep," Ethan said simply. "To the crew, to myself, to you and Noah." "To Daniel," Olivia added softly. "Yes." Ethan's fingers tightened around hers. "To Daniel most of all. I think I needed to face that mountain again, to prove something to myself." "And did you? Prove what you needed to?" He considered this, his thumb absently tracing circles on the back of her hand. "I think I'm starting to understand that Daniel's death wasn't something I could have prevented, that he made his choice, just as I made mine to go back for him. That we both did the best we could in an impossible situation. The admission seemed to cost him something, years of self-recrimination not easily set aside. But there was also relief in his voice, the first tentative steps toward forgiveness, of himself, of circumstances, of fate. "Thank you for taking care of Noah," he said after a moment, "for being the parent he needs." "I'm not his parent," Olivia corrected automatically. "I'm just his aunt." Ethan shook his head. "No, you're his mother in every way that matters. The way you comfort him, guide him, fight for him. The way he looks at you. He calls you Mom Livy for a reason." Unexpected tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. "I never planned to be anyone's mother. When Kelly died and Daniel asked me to help with Noah, I thought it would be temporary. A few months at most. But then..." She swallowed hard. "Then I couldn't imagine my life without him." "Love does that," Ethan said quietly. "Changes all your plans." The words hung between them, layered with meaning beyond Noah. Olivia felt her pulse quicken, aware suddenly of how close they were sitting, of his hand still holding hers, of the warmth in his eyes when they met hers. "Ethan," she began, not sure what she wanted to say, but needing to say something. "It's late," he interrupted gently, "and I'm dead on my feet. We should both get some rest." The moment passed, not broken but deferred. Olivia nodded, withdrawing her hand with reluctance. "Of course. You must be exhausted." Ethan stood, stretching muscles sore from days of firefighting. "I'll see you in the morning. Sleep well, Olivia." "You too," she replied. "And Ethan, I'm glad you're home safe." Home. The word seemed to catch them both by surprise. Its simplicity, its rightness, its implication that the ranch had become home not just for him, but for all of them. "So am I," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion. "Good night." After he left, Olivia sat alone in the quiet of the guest house, listening to the rain pattering on the roof and Noah's soft breathing from the bedroom. The relief of Ethan's safe return mingled with a new awareness, a recognition of feelings that had been growing quietly beneath the surface of their daily interactions. She had come to Blue River Ranch seeking refuge, a temporary solution to desperate circumstances. Instead, she had found something she hadn't dared to hope for. Not just shelter, but the possibility of a home. Not just security, but the chance for happiness. Not just a provider for Noah, but a man who was slowly, steadily, becoming essential to them both. The realization was both exhilarating and terrifying. Olivia had built walls around her heart after losing her parents, after watching Daniel and Kelly die too young, after shouldering the responsibility of raising Noah alone. Opening herself to new loss, new vulnerability went against every protective instinct she had developed. Yet watching Ethan with Noah, seeing the gentle patience he showed the boy, the respect he offered her, the quiet strength he brought to everything he did, it made those walls seem less necessary, less protective, and more isolating. With these thoughts circling in her mind, Olivia finally went to bed, falling into an exhausted sleep filled with dreams of fire and rain, of losses endured, and new beginnings yet to come. Morning arrived with clear skies and a freshly washed world. The storm had moved on, leaving behind puddles that reflected the blue sky and mountains that seemed to have been scrubbed clean overnight. Noah was up with the sun, his energy fully restored by the knowledge of Ethan's safe return. "Can we go see Scout now?" he asked before Olivia had even finished her first cup of coffee. "Ethan said we would check on him first thing." "Let's give Ethan a chance to sleep in," Olivia suggested. "He had a long few days." But even as she spoke, a knock sounded at the door. Ethan stood on the threshold, looking remarkably refreshed despite his exhaustion the night before. "Morning," he greeted them. "I believe I promised someone a visit to the barn?" Noah whooped with delight, rushing to put on his boots. Olivia shook her head in amazement. "How are you even functioning? You should be sleeping until noon." Ethan shrugged, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Too many years of ranch life. My body doesn't know how to sleep past sunrise anymore." They walked to the barn together, Noah running ahead, his excitement palpable in the morning air. As they watched him, Ethan cleared his throat. "I've been thinking about something. A proposition, I guess you could call it." Olivia glanced at him, curious. What kind of proposition? Our 3-month trial period is almost up, he pointed out. 6 weeks gone already. Her heart sank. Had he decided they should leave after all? Had their presence been more disruptive than helpful? Yes, I suppose it is. I don't want to wait until the end to have this conversation, Ethan continued, because I already know what I want to propose. They had reached the barn, where Noah was already greeting Scout with enthusiastic pats and a running commentary on everything the horse had missed while Ethan was away. Ethan paused, watching the boy with an expression that made Olivia's breath catch. I want you both to stay, he said simply. Not for another few months. Permanently. Olivia stared at him, sure she had misheard. Permanently? This ranch needs you, Ethan said. The books are in better shape than they've been in years. The diversification plans you suggested are already bringing in new income. But it's more than that. He turned to face her fully. No one needs the stability, the space to grow. And I... He hesitated, then finished quietly. I need you both more than I ever thought possible. The admission, so honest and unadorned, left Olivia speechless. Before she could formulate a response, Noah called to them from inside the barn. Mom, Livy, Ethan, come quick. Scout has something to show you. They exchanged a look. The conversation paused, but not forgotten. We'll finish this later, Ethan promised, his eyes holding hers for a moment longer before they turned to answer Noah's summons. Inside the barn, they found Noah standing beside Scout's stall, pointing excitedly at something in the corner. Look, Scout made a new friend. Curled in a nest of hay was a small gray kitten, impossibly tiny, its eyes barely open. It mewed pitifully when they approached, trying to stand on wobbling legs. Where did you come from, little one? Olivia wondered, kneeling to get a better look. Probably one of the barn cats, Ethan surmised. There's a female who's been around for years, never lets anyone near her but keeps the mice population under control. Is it a boy or a girl? Noah wanted to know. Ethan carefully picked up the kitten, examining it with gentle hands. A little girl, he confirmed. And all alone, from the looks of it. Where's her mom? Noah asked, concern evident in his voice. Sometimes mother cats move their kittens one by one to a new location if they feel the first one isn't safe, Olivia explained. She might be coming back for this one. Or something might have happened to her, Ethan added pragmatically. Coyotes, eagles. There are lots of predators that would take a cat if they could. Noah's face fell at this possibility. Can we keep her safe? Until her mom comes back? Ethan and Olivia exchanged glances over his head. They both knew the likelihood of the mother cat returning was slim. We can try, Ethan said, placing the kitten back in its nest. We'll check on her every couple of hours today. If her mother hasn't come back by evening, we'll need to make other arrangements. Like what? Noah asked. Like bringing her inside, Ethan replied. Feeding her with a special bottle. Taking care of her until she's big enough to take care of herself. Noah's expression brightened at this possibility. I could help. I'm really good at taking care of things. I helped with Scout while you were gone, and he's way bigger than a kitten. You did an excellent job with Scout, Ethan agreed solemnly. But a kitten this young is a lot of work. She'll need feeding every few hours, even during the night. I can do it, Noah insisted. Please, Ethan. Please, Mom Livy. Olivia looked to Ethan, finding the same softness in his eyes that she felt in her heart. We'll see, she said, the universal parental response to difficult requests. First, let's give her mother a chance to come back. Throughout the day, they checked on the kitten regularly. By late afternoon, there was still no sign of the mother cat. And the kitten's cries had grown weaker, more desperate. I think it's time, Ethan said quietly to Olivia as they made their final check before dinner. She won't survive the night out here alone. Olivia nodded, watching as Noah gently stroked the kitten's tiny head with one finger. Looks like we're about to become kitten parents. Think you can handle one more responsibility? Ethan asked, his tone light, but his eyes serious. I think we can handle it together. she replied, holding his gaze. As a family. The word hung between them. Significant and right. Ethan's expression softened, a smile spreading slowly across his face. As a family, he repeated. I like the sound of that. Noah looked up at them, hope written across his features. Can we really keep her? Yes, buddy, Ethan confirmed. We're bringing her inside. But remember what I said. She'll need a lot of care. I'll take the best care of her ever, Noah promised fervently. She won't be alone anymore. She'll have us. As they carried the tiny kitten toward the house, Noah walking carefully between them with the precious bundle cradled in his hands, Olivia felt a sense of rightness settle over her. This unexpected addition to their household was somehow perfect. Another lost soul finding refuge at Blue River Ranch. Another heart healing in the shelter of newfound family. The proposition Ethan had made earlier echoed in her mind. Permanence. Stability. A future together. Looking at him now, watching over Noah with protective tenderness, she knew her answer would be yes. Not because they needed the security he offered, though they did. Not because Noah had found happiness here, though he had, but because somewhere along the way this man, with his quiet strength and gentle hands, had become essential to her own happiness. Blue River Ranch had become more than a temporary refuge. It had become home. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.